we're all ears, and we'll try to answer those as best as we are able. So if that makes sense, I don't know, Jason, Captain Melby, did you want to add anything to that from our public information office?
No, I just want to make sure I see that we've got WEAU, we've got the Tribune, WXOW, and WKBT. I don't see a member from WIZM on yet at this point. They didn't confirm whether they were going to be coming in or not. To all of our media outlets, and when we do get to the question session, I just simply ask that you use the hand down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen to indicate that you would like to ask a question. With the technology, it's tough for people to talk at the same time. It will mess things up a little bit. So if you could simply use the hand indicator, it'll show on the screen that you are asking a question. I will let the mayor himself call on the people as he can see the screen. And then you can ask your question, and then you can get addressed in kind of an orderly fashion, the best that we can with the technology we have. That's all I've got.
Thank you. And just as a reminder for everybody to just mute your device unless you're speaking. That way we'll cut down on the background noise and the chitter chatter. So are we good to go then, everyone? All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. I want to wish everybody a good morning. Before we get into our updates, though, I do want to just take a moment really on behalf of our whole community to express our sadness and condolences to the Fimple family for the tragic and senseless loss of Anthony this past weekend. Anthony was a part of our mayor's crew and worked for WISCOR as a part of our summer youth employment program, and did a phenomenal job for us here at the city. I think we're all just feeling so sad about what happened, and the goal of the mayor's crew and our program really is to work with our young people and to help them develop skills, help them to define and improve their work ethic, and to develop this idea about making our community a better place. And Anthony was just such a phenomenal role model and a great example of that, and just a very giving person as a part of that whole effort those summers. We are all going to miss him, and I hope again just that his family can take some small relief in knowing that La Crosse is a better place because of Anthony. So today I'd like to go ahead and get started. Our goal, as we stated, is to provide some information about city services and programs, especially due to the ongoing impacts from COVID-19. We're going to hear from our Unified Incident Command, both Chiefs Gilliam and Kudron. We'll hear from Shannon Grant from the library, from Jay Odegaard in our Parks and Recreation Department, and from Caroline Gregerson, our Community Development Administrator. We also want to provide more information about the city's role and authority when it comes to local health orders. I know that there is some misunderstanding perhaps out there, and we'd like to clarify our role as well as our working relationship with La Crosse County Health as we work to combat COVID-19. So let me just start by saying that we're all very concerned about the recent uptick in case numbers and seeing the spread of the virus throughout La Crosse County. I want the public to know that we are doing everything within the city's ability and authority to try to slow the spread of COVID-19. This includes closing city facilities. So right now, of course, City Hall is closed. We've closed our pools and beaches. We've closed the Transit Center and Municipal Service Center, our community centers. We have limited hours and curbside service, for example, at the library. So we're doing everything we can within our city facilities to close them. We have our staff continuing to work from home whenever possible, and encouraging them to do that. They're doing as much physical separation, split shifts, flexible hours as possible. And last week we took the additional step of requiring that all staff wear a face covering when they are out in public, when they are on duty, so that we can, again, try to slow the spread of the disease. We encourage our public to do the same when they're outside of their own home, to wear a face covering if at all possible. We have canceled all large gatherings in our parks and our city right-of-ways and our city facilities through July, and we'll have more information about August and September events soon. And we continue working closely with the La Crosse County Health Department and utilize their county compass metrics and updates to help guide us in determining how to address these large gatherings and the use of city facilities like our park shelters and whatnot. I want the public to know that we are still providing all of our critical services. Those are all still functioning at a high level of service, including our emergency response, our water and sewer, our garbage and recycling pickup, our street repairs and maintenance is ongoing. Our transit service, providing MTU service, is still ongoing. So those things we continue without missing a beat, even with the changes to staffing and how we are trying to, again, protect not only our staff, but especially the public. To be clear, the authority for closing businesses where there have been multiple cases of COVID-19 and whether or not to require face coverings rests with La Crosse County. We do not have our own health department here at the city, and we rely on the authority of the county. We cannot make our own city only or citywide health order. We do rely on the Crosse County Health Department that has the authority. We recently met with the county leadership and encouraged them to, again, take more assertive actions to help slow down the spread of COVID-19. Our understanding is that the county is analyzing their authority and next steps. For those of you familiar, there are a number of counties around the state, including Dane County, Milwaukee County, Racine County, Brown County. A number of those had either extended the safer at home order when the Wisconsin Supreme Court struck that down, or issued new orders. Some of those, I think, or maybe all of them, have been challenged either in local, state, or federal court, and we're all awaiting to see the outcomes of those lawsuits. But I believe that the local authority, that there is local authority through the health statutes, and that rests with La Crosse County. In the meantime, we all are encouraging our residents to do the right thing by limiting travel, by social distancing, wearing a mask, practicing good hygiene, and avoiding groups of people outside of your household. And my hope is that the county will make some decisions soon about their authority, because we all know that the fall is coming, the start of school and the return of college students is just around the corner. And I would also note that we're working with our business community. I know Chief Kudron has some updates about that. We are trying to encourage our business community to utilize their own abilities and authorities within their business to require masks and to require social distancing for employees and customers. We all strongly encourage our businesses to do that. I would also call upon our business groups like Downtown Main Street and La Crosse Area Chamber of Commerce to get their members to require masks and social distancing as ways that they can slow down the spread of the disease and not necessarily have to have an order in place, but to do that under their own authority within their business. I think at this point we are getting beyond the simple encouragement, and we really need to start asserting more direct action to help each other and protect each other. We have had some setbacks recently, as we noted, when it comes to fighting this disease with the very significant uptick in case numbers, and we really need people and our residents to take things seriously and get back to those efforts that we witnessed back in March and April and May, when we had low case numbers and we were doing a very good job. We need to get back to that and follow the health guidelines and recommendations coming from La Crosse County Health. This is extremely important. We know many of the cases have involved young people in their 20s and 30s, and we all understand that a person may be healthy and not feel that they are in danger of the disease, but you could pass that along to someone who is not as healthy or might have issues, and we don't want to see that. Please wear a mask, help protect others. Let's show that lacrosse is all about helping each other. We have to do our part. So now I'd like to turn it over to Chief Gilliam for an update for the Unified Incident Command. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor Cabot. So kind of a two-prong report for today on the city emergency management, just to eliminate any confusion that still may exist. We still are operating our emergency operations center and working in a unified command structure in line with the National Incident Management System. This is mainly to support city operations. Certainly, this event for the last few months is something that none of us has ever had to deal with, and it's mainly been engaged to assist the mayor and council with good flow of communications, and then also to document our activities. So a lot of the work being done by just a couple of people that are tied to our emergency operations center is documenting our progress weekly. We are down to once a week meetings right now, and we've got a few task forces set up to do everything from grants management to see where there are alternative funding strategies where we could recoup some of our losses this year, to a special events task force, to some city hall closure and safety and security stuff we've been working on. So really an all hands on deck event for the city, and the unified command structure was really just set up to help make sure nobody was left out and that we were keeping everybody in the loop. I'd be happy to answer any questions on that when we go to Q&A. Beyond that, reporting predominantly for the fire department and our emergency medical services, we've certainly seen an uptick in more serious calls. We've been working with our partner Tri-State Ambulance and Gunderson Hospital with our medical director there to make sure we're putting in consistent and appropriate medical control, personal protective equipment for all of our people. That's been working really well. We're trying to isolate and really keep from spreading this any further than we need to. So knock on wood, no real reported issues with how we've been operating, and I think a lot of it's actually been very safe and very effective. Certainly with between COVID-19 and also kind of some of the more violent uprisings around the country, we've just been really cautious and making sure that we're operating as safe as possible for our staff. But it's business as normal for the fire department. If you have an emergency, please call 911. We're responding as normal. We're still looking a little bit different depending on the level of the call and what's going on. You might see a lot more body isolation measures in place just to protect our customers ultimately, and also protect us. With that, that's all I have. I will pass it off to Chief Kudron.
Thank you, Chief. The whole La Crosse Police Department is working to protect our citizens and employees from additional spread of COVID-19. Unfortunately, at the very end of last week, we learned of 2 additional officers who have tested positive for COVID-19. So we are working closely with those officers, the health department, as well as our local health institutions to provide the best support, as well as to understand the safest protocols for our department, as well as for those officers at this time. With City Hall being closed, we are encouraging our community to use electronic means to conduct business, not only with City Hall, but also with the police department as best as you can. And we also encourage our community to visit the City of La Crosse website, as well as the police department's website, to try and answer questions that you may have now again that City Hall is closed. Again, we continue to work very closely with the La Crosse County Health Department. And last week, we worked with the health department in connecting with the La Crosse County Tavern League to assist in trying to develop the best practices for our taverns when it comes to COVID-19 and taking those preventative measures. And we hope that moving forward, we will find some good connections between our businesses as well as the health department in finding the best practices for them to move forward to slow down the spread of COVID-19. So again, I just want to echo the mayor in terms of the wearing of masks when you're out in public and amongst each other, and hopefully we'll be moving forward in best way possible. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Mayor Cabot to move forward here.
Thank you, Chief. I'd like to next call on Shannon Grant, our Crosse Public Library Director, to provide us with some updates for the library services. Shannon?
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. We are still encouraging folks to go to our website and follow us on social media. We have a lot of online programming and virtual services that our desks are still available for questions. We are doing a summer library program. Of course, it looks very different this year with most of that being virtual, but we do have some kits as well as some online information available for anybody who wants to participate at various age levels. Like we have all along, we've been moving our programming online and virtually. We are continuing to do that through the summer. Additionally, we've been doing curbside service. We've modified that service a little bit. Our location used to be on the 9th Street side of our main building. Now that is on the parking lot entrance on our south side. Folks no longer need to schedule an appointment. Notifications have been turned on so people can go to the online catalog and request materials or give us a call and we can do that for you. Once they receive notice either by email or phone that their materials are ready, they can come down and pick those up. We are limiting occupancy in our buildings and practicing social distancing and making sure that we are as safe as possible. Browsing is still not something that you're allowed to do. It's just not a safe thing. So this modification in services does though expedite our hold services for our community. We are offering curbside service for those who want to schedule it. So we invite people to give us a call at 789-7167 if you still want to schedule a time and do that, provide that service curbside. Additionally, we are open for scheduled computer use, and that's by appointment only. That is Monday and Tuesday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 3 to 6. Thursday and Friday, also 10 to 1 and 3 to 6, and then Saturday, 1 to 5. So folks can come in, and then we do clean the computers in between so they're sanitized and ready to go. Again, promoting that safety. Like other city facilities, we are requiring folks to wear a mask or face covering when they come in to do that. We are also still providing curbside service at our north or south community libraries on a limited basis. So again, if folks want to check out lacrosselibrary.org, our social media, or give us a call at 789-7167. That's about all I have for updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Next, I'll turn it over to Jay Woodegard, our Parks, Recreation, Forestry, and Facilities Director. Jay?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, as most of the community knows, we've had to close down and cancel many of our facilities and summer programs. With that being said, as everybody in the community has evolved, obviously their recreation has evolved with that, and we're seeing a huge uptick in the use of parks and trails. Also, we're seeing a tremendous use of our boat landing facilities, picnic areas. So the department has done the best that we can to evolve with those needs. With the cancellation of a lot of our programs and whatnot, it has allowed us the opportunity to, really increase our cleaning schedules with the bathrooms and some of the facilities that we do have open. We are still allowing reservations at certain park shelters, going along with the COVID compass that we have groups of 10 or less the neighborhood centers have been closed for the time being. However, we are honoring the reservations that have already been put into place there. Some of the other things that, you know, we've really been working on in the community through this virus time that has been a positive is that it's allowed us to catch up on some of our other projects. One that I think is very noteworthy is the Paul Stry Foundation donated $25,000 that allowed us to plant 200 boulevard trees this summer, spring, and you know that's something that is very beneficial to the city, and really we're just kind of making sure that we are able to do a lot of these other projects and jobs that needed to be done while continuing to plan and evolve plans for the fall, winter, when we can open things back up. We obviously have a new senior center opening up here in September, and so we have a lot of things going on there. Like Shannon said, cityoflacrosse.org, our website, has most of the up-to-the-minute news and updates from our department, along with many other of the city departments. Currently, with City Hall closed, our office, like most offices, are available Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And once we're able to open back up to the public, we'll have office hours in City Hall of 8 a.m. to 1, Monday through Thursday. So, you know, as we continue to go through this and we see the large numbers of people out recreating in the community, and we can all agree that that's a very good thing. I just reiterate to what the mayor and the chiefs had said in regards to, you know, wearing your masks and making sure that you continue with hand sanitizer as you see fit. And please, by all means, practice the social distancing with 50 plus parks in the city. If you get to one that's a little crowded, you won't have to travel far to find another one. So with that, I just want to thank everybody in the community for their patience, and we look forward to getting back to some form of normalcy here as soon as possible.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate the update. Next, I'll ask Caroline Gregerson, who is our Community Development Administrator, to give us some updates on some new opportunities for our businesses. Caroline?
Yeah, thank you. The City of La Crosse Planning Department continues to be focused on ensuring our local economy recovers as quickly as possible, and our citizens have access to the resources that they need. So first of all, I just want to point you to www.cityoflacrosse.org/COVID resources. We continue to update that website, and for example, the newest resource on there talks about the RAP program that Coulee Cap is running, where anybody who is looking at potential eviction due to COVID-19 can call Coulee Cap and get rental assistance. So that, for example, is a key resource there that people can look up. Meanwhile, here in city planning, on July 2nd, we have a grant application that's due to focus on two key areas that we've seen. One is homelessness. Clearly, that's a very high-risk population, and the city is making available $200,000 in grant funding to local organizations to both house people living on the streets and in shelter, and secondly, to increase their outreach efforts to the unsheltered. And then the second component of that grant application is to ensure that our childcare businesses continue to remain viable during these difficult economic times. And we're offering small grants to any licensed City of La Crosse childcare business that is from an in-home provider all the way up to a center. And again, we know that a key aspect of our economy is our childcare. And then finally, you know, our small business grant program has wrapped up, but we continue to release those dollars and get them into the hands of business, and continue to work very hard to ensure that we exit out of this crisis and we live through it in the best way possible for our economy and ensure that people to continue to be able to work and remain housed. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Then just to wrap up our briefing for this morning, a couple of updates. One on our budget processes, both our capital improvement budget as well as our operating budget. Tonight at the City Plan Commission at 4 o'clock, we have our presentation of the recommended capital improvement budget. There are a number of infrastructure and facility recommendations there. The Plan Commission takes action on that tonight, and then that moves on to the Finance and Personnel Committee and ultimately to the Common Council for final adoption. I have received a considerable amount of communication about the capital budget, especially on some specific projects. And I would like the community and our citizens to know that in nearly every case, these projects have been in the planning stage for a number of years. I know most recently we've heard feedback about the combined law enforcement center that we're doing some planning for down in the Powell Polk Hamilton neighborhood at 5th and Market, where we have currently fire station number 1. There's $1 million proposed for that to continue our efforts to plan for and to acquire property. Again, this is the result of a task force that was formed several years ago that looked at the condition of not only our fire stations and the need to update those fire stations based on the fact that they are woefully out of date when it comes to the gender facilities and having accommodations for female firefighters, as well as the equipment and the rigs that we have today versus what we had in place back in the 1950s and 60s. The law enforcement centerpiece is really an effort to make the best use of taxpayer dollars and to not duplicate. So some of that planning between a shared facility between the police department, fire department, and ultimately the municipal court is something that we want to explore. So I know right now with what's going on in the world and with the terrible murder of George Floyd and the challenges that our policing is facing, I want people to know that this law enforcement discussion has been going on for a number of years, and I would encourage people to continue to pay attention and to participate in our processes. As far as our operating budget, our process really starts next month in July with the meeting of our budget parameter committee that really sets the big picture as far as what our spending plan is going to be. This year, obviously, we have a lot of uncertainty, not only with the economic downturn that we're facing, but also no one knows at this point of what the state of Wisconsin is going to do with shared revenue. So we're going to probably, or I know we're going to need to make some very drastic assumptions when it comes to resources coming from outside of the city. We've also, again, received a lot of communication about the budget cuts that we had to do for this year's budget, for the 2020 budget, and especially how it impacts our library and our parks and recreation programs. I can tell you this, no one, not a single person is happy about the budget cuts that we had to make. We are all, in the mindset and the goal of enhancing our quality of life and providing great services here at the city of La Crosse. But unfortunately, due to COVID-19 and the economic downturn, we were facing a $4.5 million budget hole in the middle of the year, which is an unprecedented economic impact that the city had to deal with. So we are going to do everything in our power, especially our programs like our libraries and parks and recreation and others, to figure out ways that we can restore them, figure out ways that we can share staff and share services so that we can get back to those levels as quickly as possible. Again, no one is happy about that, but it's unfortunately the reality that we're facing in our budget process for this year's budget was really wrapped up last year in November before any of us had any idea about COVID-19. I do note that Council President Gall is on the call here as well. And the Common Council and myself will be working over the next several months with our departments to finalize our operating budget. We're going to do everything we can to make sure we have plenty of opportunities for public input and transparency as that budget process goes along. We're looking right now at some updates to our website so that we can share some of the historical budget information with our community, as not everyone might be familiar with the levels of spending and the programs and services that we've funded here these last few years. So the last thing I'd like to just share is that we do have a primary election coming up on August 11th. For those that are registered and have an updated registration here in the city, absentee ballots were mailed to you, and we encourage everyone to vote by mail if at all possible. Please follow the instructions for filling them out and for returning them. If you have any questions about the balloting or the election coming up, please contact the city clerk's office at 608-789-7510, or you can also go to the website myvote.wi.gov for more information. And I would encourage everyone to get their registrations updated so that they can vote by mail, to try to just decrease the amount of people that have to do that in person. And as was stated, Caroline and others, for more information about the city resources and services due to COVID-19, please go to the city's website, and that's cityoflacrosse.org, or call 608-789-CITY. And I just want to encourage all of our residents, again, we can beat COVID-19 by taking care of each other, by wearing a mask, by keeping your distance and practicing good hygiene. So I want to thank everybody today. Please stay safe and healthy and stay strong across. And that is the end of our community briefing. I would like to now open it up to our media folks for any questions that they have for any of the participants in the panel. Go ahead, WXOW.
Good morning, Mayor, everyone else. Thanks for the meeting, and it's nice to see you.
Good morning.
Mayor, what do you think it's going to take for people to be a little more, for people to be better about wearing masks? At least in my experience around town and visiting different places, most people don't. Is there anything else that you are able to do to encourage that? And even if it's mandated, do you believe that people are going to follow that rule?
Well, Dave, you raise a very good question, and I don't have necessarily a good answer. I think, unfortunately, with some of the, let me say, maybe just misunderstanding. I know when the Safer at Home order was overturned, and we went from being on, in essence, stay at home to a wide open with no restrictions. I think that caused some confusion among people who might not necessarily then think the disease or the virus is as serious as it is. So I think there was just a natural tendency for people to relax. I think the fact that we've got, some businesses that are open and they're, trying to do their best, but the nature of their business is about socializing and having people be in close contact. I think that's also a struggle, and I know it's difficult, and wearing a mask and face covering is inconvenient, and it's not fun, but we have to do that in order to continue to just run out the clock on this virus until there's a vaccine developed. So I think for us, we're in the, we're doing everything we can as a part of our city operations. We've mandated face coverings, we've closed facilities, we've canceled events. We're trying through our actions in that fashion to show people how serious it is. But I think at this point, at most we can do is to strongly encourage people to wear face masks wherever possible. And it is a challenge. I don't think we have a good answer at this point, Dave. I do believe that the county, as they follow the courts and the decisions and ultimately look at what their authority is when it comes to requiring face covering. I've told them I think that they should mandate a face covering for La Crosse County for people in the public, but ultimately it's up to the county board supervisors and the health department to decide what they feel is mandatory.
Thank you, and to all of you, thank you for your work.
Thank you, Dave. Anyone else with a question?
Mayor, you had Jordan from the Tribune,
Jordan.
and then Jordan from WKBT after that.
All right. Thanks. Jordan from the Tribune.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I had a question for Chief Coudron. I was wondering, I wanted some clarification on the 2 officers who tested positive for COVID-19. Is that in addition to the 1 already announced?
That's correct. That's in addition to the 1 already announced, so a total of 3.
Okay. And for a follow-up question to that, like, how is the department how is it keeping officers safe, and how is it keeping the community safe when it goes, I assume that those officers were going out in calls. How are they, protecting the public?
Yeah, so a number of ways that we're trying to do that, certainly with the use of masks. We are also going through a significant cleaning process with our gear as well as our squad car, the cars that the officers are using. We're also working to continue to try and address calls for service when we can from a distance. However, policing in general, at times we cannot do that. So we're doing the best that we can to keep a distance, wearing the masks that are not only protecting the officers, but are protecting the public in general, and doing the best we can as we move through our shifts and through our days to make sure that we're addressing the issue of COVID-19 and spread.
Okay, and is it safe to say that the health department is, doing contact tracing in those cases as well?
That is correct.
Okay, just wanted to double check. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jordan. How about Jordan from WKBT? Go ahead.
Yeah, Mayor, this could go to you. Just kind of in response to Dave's question in regard to masks. I know there's a lot of people, I see this on Facebook and Twitter all the time, there's a lot of people that don't believe masks work. And I mean, we hear that from, the president a lot when it comes to masks and things. You see politicians not wearing them. So I guess what more can be said from experts and public officials in the area that they are proven to reduce the spread and try to get rid of some of the conspiracy theories that exist out there?
Yeah, it really is truly unfortunate. Those folks that don't believe masks work are simply incorrect. And it's, I know, a challenge, especially for our local health department and others, to constantly try to combat the not only COVID-19, but then the misinformation and misunderstanding about wearing masks. Wearing masks is one of those basic things that we all can do, and it's a very simple thing that has some pretty dramatic positive impacts. Even yesterday, I was watching, I forget which news program it was, but the
hey, let me guess where you were watching.
Former Secretary of Homeland Security, I believe it was talking about how the simple act of wearing a face covering has such an exponential benefit and will allow the time that we need as a country to eventually develop a vaccine. So it is very difficult, especially because now this has become politicized, and I put the responsibility for that politicization really at the hands of our leaders, instead of again trying to bring people together, encourage to do the right thing. There was all kinds of again, and not setting good examples, and that's what leaders should be doing, is setting a good example. So really all we can do ourselves within our individual power is to try to do the right thing. What I try to tell folks is wearing the mask is not about protecting yourself, it's about protecting other people. And here in La Crosse, we have a great reputation for taking care of each other and for caring about one another, and the level of giving and volunteerism and just, neighbor helping neighbor is really remarkable. We need to show that in action with wearing a face covering in public, and that to me would show that La Crosse is all about doing the right thing through our actions. So we continue to encourage it. It's just unfortunate that this has become now a political issue, and that's the last thing we need, because we know that the fall, especially with just the seasonal flu and the other things that we face every year, is going to be even more challenging than what we're facing right now. So if we can start to get people to get back into that mindset of battling this disease together, I'm hopeful we'll see more people wearing face coverings in the future.
Thank you kindly.
Other questions? Yes. Haley.
And just for awareness, I just muted a whole bunch of microphones because of somebody talking without their mic muted. So if you could please respect the mute function, I'll unmute everybody again here.
All right. Thanks, Chief. Haley, did you have your hand up? Or did I see that? The screen, my screen is kind of small, so it's not easy for me to see everybody's.
Haley at WEA, you did have a hand up, but now it's cleared.
Okay. Any other questions from the media? Going once, going twice. Okay. Well, I don't see any other questions or hear any other questions, so I appreciate everybody's time today. And we're going to push this out on our website and social media just to try to, again, expand the audience so that we can keep reinforcing how important it is to wear masks, and that we are working very closely with county health. I'll just say this. I think even though I might have a little bit different opinion of authority and what folks should be doing, we still are strong partners and respect the work of the county health department. And we rely on them heavily when it comes to our large gatherings and trying to determine, just how to keep people safe. I know that they've got just an incredibly, almost impossible job to do, and especially as with the questions of people hearing different messages about whether to wear face coverings or not, and whether this is serious or not. I mean, all of that that political nonsense is making their job so much harder. So we are trying to really work strongly together with them, and we're hoping that the county will get their coming to a decision on their authority and just what their next steps are. So with that, I would wish everybody a great rest of your day. Thank you for tuning in and for the updates, and everybody stay safe. Thank you all.